Hello everyone, happy Friday. Let's take a look at question 30 of the STARR review. Helen had $330 in her savings account when Vince opened the savings account with $0. And Helen deposited $30 into her account each week for X weeks. And Vince deposited $50 into his account each week for X weeks. And the accounts did not earn interest, so we don't need to consider interest. Which inequality represents this situation when the amount of money in Helen's account was greater than the amount of money in Vince's account? So this question is about representation. We are going to represent a real-world situation with an inequality with a mathematical expression. So before we start, I recommend you to also review question 25, which is also a representation problem. All right, let's begin. To deal with a representation problem, I always recommend you to write down the things we are going to represent so that we can see their relationship more easily. So here we're going to compare Helen's account and Vince's account. Let me write them down. Helen and Vince. Okay. And we are comparing their bank account balance after X weeks. So let's begin with the very beginning. At the very beginning, when Vince opened this account, he had $0. He opened this account with $0. So he had $0. And Helen had $330. That's in the very beginning. Now, let's see what happens after 1 week. After 1 week, Helen had this original $330, and he deposited $30 for each week. So after 1 week, she will have another $30. For Vince, he deposited $50 for each week. So after 1 week, he should have $50 by 1 week, right? Okay. Then that's equal to $50. What happens after 2 weeks? For Helen, she started with $330. After 2 weeks, she will deposit $30 by 2 weeks. And for Vince, he deposited $50 each week. So over 2 weeks, he has deposited $50 times 2. After 3 weeks, Helen would have $330 original deposit plus $30 by 3 weeks. And for Vince, he would have $50 each week by 3 weeks. Okay, and we can list this table on and on. But now let's pause a second and let's do some review. If we compare vertically, we can see, hey, for Helen, most part of this expression remain the same. It's only this part that changed. See, the 30, we can think of it as 30 by 1 week, right? So just this part changed and the rest remained the same. And this part, it is actually the same part here. And it's the same thing with Vince. If we review Vince, we'll see, hey, we can think of this $50 as $50 by 1 week. So what changed is this part, right? $50 by 1 week, by 2 weeks, by 3 weeks. So the changing parts, they are the same thing. the changing part is the number of weeks, and all the rest remain the same. And the number of weeks, in this question, it tells us for X weeks. So that means we can use X to represent this number of weeks. So what happens is we can say, hey, after X weeks, Helen would have 330 plus 30 times X. See here? We're going to represent this number of weeks with X. And for Vince, he is going to have $50 times X weeks because we represent this number of weeks with X. See? So that is the representation. So we used this table to help us clarify about the situation, and we made this representation. Now, I can just erase this part. Because after we have this representation, we only need to deal with the representation, right? So the last question is, which inequality? We want an inequality to represent when Helen's account was greater than Vince's account. So Helen has greater balance than Vince. While Helen's greater than Vince, we can just simply say this part is greater than this part. Okay? Let me write it up. 300 plus 30x. This is Helen. Is greater than 50x. This is Vince. And we can check the options we have, and we can see J should be the answer because this part, 330 plus 30x, is greater than 50x, and that also means 50x is less than the left side, so 350, right? They mean the same. They are the same thing. So that's J, and our answer should be J. And lastly, I have a quick note. So we constructed the situation Helen has greater balance than Vince. And we can easily construct a different situation, say if Helen has less than Vince, then we can have 330 plus 30x less than 50x. If Helen has same amount of bank balance as Vince, if they are the same, then we can have 330 plus 30x equals to 50x, right? So we can see here, after we have this representation, we can easily represent different situations. Helen has more, Helen has less, or they have the equal amount. So that's the methods of representation. And that concludes our solution. Thank you for watching, and I wish you all have a great weekend. Peace.